Without the new markets tax credit, communities mired in poverty would lose a proven tool to draw investments and good jobs.
With so many things that are important here in the bills, let me also just thank you for including our bipartisan effort on conservation easements, the research and development tax credit, and the new markets tax credit. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
I also want to comment on the extending tax provisions that are also helping our economy grow: the wind production tax credit, the low-income housing tax credit, the new market tax credit, the biodiesel tax credit, the veterans work opportunity tax credit, R&D. All of these things are so essential for businesses to have predictability and to basically leverage further private sector investment. Businesses plan ahead, and so that means they need the certainty to do so. For example, the new market tax credit, which provided tax investments to invest in low-income communities between 2003 and 2010, it cost the federal government $5.4 billion in new market tax credits, but it generated $45 billion in investment and a leverage of approximately 8 to 1. To me, those are the things that we should be doing to help our economy.
Many of the provisions are that I think are critically important. Let me just highlight the transit benefits, the green energy initiatives, the new market tax credits, Senator Rockefeller's efforts there, the low-income housing tax credits, the 9% minimum rate, the 4% now in existing. Senator Cantwell's work on that is critically important and helps all of our communities, the conservation easements, and Stabenow's been working on that. These are all very important extenders and improvements of extenders that will help create jobs, help people live healthier lives, and help our economy.
The new market tax credit program is a proven job creator, particularly in our older cities that many of us have.
In states like mine and really throughout the country with plant closings, we see what happens to that family, we see what happens to that community, laid off teachers oftentimes, just more desperate circumstances in neighborhoods. For communities that suffered major job loss when manufacturing plants closed, the manufacturing community's tax credit builds upon the successful new markets tax credit. I think most on this committee have supported what new markets has done for development in large portions of their state. Building on that with the manufacturing community tax credit can make a big difference.
If you are from Pennsylvania, Utah, West Virginia, you are underrepresented, as we are in Florida, on the new markets tax credit. For example, it serves the poor population, encouraging investment in low-income areas. An example, in my state, we have 6.3% of the poverty resides in Florida in the country, and yet our new markets tax credit share is only 2%. Those other states are similar that I mentioned. And so what it does, this tax credit, is incentivize investment of commercial projects to create jobs in low-income areas. And since the program was established back in 2000, $36 billion has been invested in eligible communities. And it needs that little tweak to get to the poverty. So I want to work with you, Mr. Chairman, Senator Hatch, on tweaking it.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. We have had excellent success with the new markets tax credit at home, and I want to work with you.
This amendment seeks to provide support for new manufacturing investment in hard-hit communities. We all know the numbers. From 2000 to 2010, we lost some 5 million manufacturing jobs. We've seen some 600,000, maybe a bit more than that, come back in the 4 years since. This legislation, this amendment will help to refine the new market tax credit. It will make it simpler in the sense that oftentimes it's fairly expensive for someone eligible in those census tracts for the new market tax credit to find a way to go through the process and do manufacturing I hear all the time, as I know Senator Portman does, from groups like the Dayton Development Coalition and Columbus Partnership and others, that business wants to invest in communities. They're not sure they can do it through new market tax credit in these census tracts, but that would get them there if they had just a little more help. So I ask for support of the amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I would encourage my colleagues to support it. This is not a new expense because Senator Brown's amendment actually is paid for by a clawback from the new markets tax credit allocations that aren't used, which, as I recall, is about 1 to 3% of the allocation. So it's a relatively small amount. It is more targeted to areas where help is needed, and it goes through the same Treasury agency, so it's not creating a new bureaucracy, and it goes to the same community development entities that have to be qualified under a new markets tax credit. So I think this is a good amendment, and I would encourage my colleagues to support it.
I strongly support the whole high end. Senator Stabenow.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to ask that my name be added as a co-sponsor.
Without objection,
and
so ordered.
indicate my strong support.
Senator Cantwell.
Mr. Chairman, I too support the amendment, and I also support the offset in the underlying provision. I think it's important to clarify what has been an inequity in the tax code, and glad that's finally going to get clarified. Thank you.